Jeff. Thank you so much for calling in from Wisconsin. Of course, in London, it's absolutely freezing, so I've got my jumper on. How was it at your end?
Oh, it's good. We did get our first little bit of snow yesterday, so it is that time of year.
Well, Jeff, I just want to briefly introduce you as the founding president of Berken Solutions, and we're so delighted to have you on the show today. Perhaps you can just introduce yourself and the wider vision for Berken Solutions, and then we can deep dive. We've got 15 minutes to make sure your entire company and also your market is covered. So over to you.
Sure, yes. Thank you, T. Thank you for having me. Berken Solutions focuses on conveyor systems, and there's a lot of people that focus on conveyor and many other things. What differentiates Berken Solutions is we really focus on the conveyor portion, and then more specifically, motorized drive roller conveyor. And so with motorized drive roller, there's lots of benefits and reasons to use that product.
So let's talk a little bit about, firstly, what made you start Berken Solutions, and then let's go into conveyors. What made you pick that particular technology?
Sure. Well, for starters, I've been in the conveyor business for about 20 years now, and time flies when you're having fun. I know conveyor very well. It's an exciting product for me. Not so much my wife. She falls asleep fast when I talk about conveyor, but for me, it's exciting and it's enthusiastic, and I'm excited about the current state of it and the future.
That's super exciting. And for those who are thinking, right, please, Jeff, can you explain to us what a conveyor is? Because I had to look it up. I mentioned that to you. And, you know, there are so many forms of conveyors. Can you tell us a little bit about the technology itself, break it down to us, and then talk a little bit about what a motorized drive roller conveyor is?
Sure. So everybody has heard of conveyors, from airport baggage handling conveyors to conveyors that are used for mining products in a quarry, to conveyors that you'd use in a distribution center or a warehouse. And so the conveyors are used everywhere. What makes motorized drive rollers conveyors unique, and it's MDR for abbreviation. MDR conveyor is it's energy efficient, it's safer, it's 24 volt DC, so it limits the torque available in the product so that it's a safer product. And then in addition, it's safe, so it's always off, and it only turns on each individual zone as a product needs to move through that zone. So the maintenance is less, the cost of ownership is less, the energy usage is less, and so on.
That's incredibly helpful. And I guess we think of these conveyors, as you mentioned, in airports, in various manufacturing hubs. Can you tell us a little bit about where your focus is? And then let's talk a little bit about size, what that looks like, just to paint a picture for anyone who's listening and watching. What is the carton size of the conveyors that you build?
Sure, and that is usually the first question we ask customers, because the size of the packages and the products really dictate what products we use from a conveying standpoint. Traditionally, it's been boxes and totes that are easy to convey. As of more recently, it has become smaller boxes, boxes that are irregular in size, and bags, which make it more challenging for all of us in the conveyance world to handle.
That's incredibly helpful to know. And let's talk a little bit about the optimal user. So the people who you consider your customers, and then who are actually using the products. Can you tell us a little bit about your customers, who your users are, who is actually deploying your technology?
Yeah, sure. So from a Berken Solutions standpoint, we are happy to get involved from the design to the manufacturing and sourcing through installation and programming of the conveyor solution part of the project. So our customer base is typically integrators and machine OEM manufacturers. And again, typically we are a portion of the overall project. So there's a lot of integration to deal with between the different pieces of equipment that we're conveying product between.
And you said you're part of this wider solution. How does a particular integrator select to work with you, or how does one make a decision to work with you in this marketplace?
Sure. So typically it's, there are a variety of reasons. I would say the first is if an integrator or a solution provider has a need for conveyor, but they don't necessarily have the expertise or the person on staff to be able to handle that part of the project. So they can hire Berken Solutions, and we'll put the right people on the project to make sure the conveyor portion is completed properly. That's probably the main reason why. So that allows integrators and other OEMs to focus on their products and their solutions and not worry about the details of the conveyor portion.
Got it. And regarding the deployment, is it quite a seamless deployment, or is it, how advanced is your technology so that, can I say if I wanted to integrate with your conveyor, how difficult is it to implement?
Sure. Sounds like a good introduction for the softbot.
Yeah.
So again, traditionally from a conveyor standpoint, we would send a PLC programmer to the job site, and he would write a custom program to make that system work. Right. And as time goes on, technology is advancing. We're getting more visibility of the products, the photo sensors and the rollers and diagnostics and all of the inputs and outputs and I/O on the system. We're getting all of that into our main controller, which means we have a lot of data to handle. And again, if we were to start from scratch every time, it would be a huge effort to develop a comprehensive commissioning solution. So with the softbot, that helps us because it creates a platform, a starting point for every program. And the beauty of it is, as we build additional modules and pieces to the softbot, we are then able to reuse those products for future systems, making it faster and easier to deploy.
So you talk about faster and easier to deploy. Can you tell us a little bit about the current timelines or the common timelines currently from starting this design process to getting it live to the timeline you would ideally have with, say, the softbot platform?
Sure. Typically for conveyor manufacturers, the design phase to the shipping point is in the 8 to 12 week range for an average size project. And then there's installation that follows, which again varies, but it's 3 or 4 weeks, let's say, as an example, for a small to medium-sized project. And then controls commissioning would typically take a week or two to work out all the bugs and write that custom program and make it sound. So with the softbot, the goal is really to have that software written in the softbot, and all of the integrations are already set. So instead of going and writing code at the site, we're really just verifying and commissioning the touch points to make sure that everything is set up properly. So we would look at that as a couple of days versus a couple of weeks.
That is incredibly useful to understand, what it was before and after. I'm always about before and after. And for those who are listening, can you tell us a little bit about how your technology, let's go back to MDRs a little bit, how has it evolved from a technology perspective? And what is it going to look like in the future? Where do you see the MDR technology or MDR conveyor technology going?
Sure. When MDR Conveyor started, it was really individual drive cards that drove individual zones of conveyor, and you would have to write a layer of software on top of that to make everything talk and work. And today there's more drive cards on the market. You can buy the drive cards from the manufacturer or from third-party suppliers, and they have different network topologies on them. And what that does for us is it allows us to allow the integrator to pick and choose what controls platform they want, and then we pick and choose the controller that best matches up to their need. And by having all of these drive cards networkable, which is the new technology, it gives us, again, all kinds of diagnostics, runtime on the rollers. We can see a high amp draw before the roller fails. So, from a preventative maintenance standpoint, we could come in and replace that. And then just the ease of connecting everything and reducing the installation time. So there are many benefits to that new technology.
And when you say connecting more, can you tell us a little bit about some of the automation infrastructures that you might be able to connect with, just so that anyone out there can say, oh, wait, we can potentially work together, but they probably need to know which particular technologies you can connect with.
Sure. So again, I'll kind of refer back to, so traditionally, a customer would want a conveyor system and design their entire warehouse around the conveyor system. In today's day and age, they may be putting in some robots or some some automated vehicles, AMRs, or an ASRS system, or some other product that automates part of their facility. So what conveyor is becoming, in my opinion, is subsystems within the total system. And those subsystems, really, the conveyor is going to be an in-feed to a system. It's going to be an out-feed to a system. It may be some accumulation in between systems. It may be used for a print and apply process. But again, the traditional conveyor system of having miles and miles of conveyor, in my opinion, is reducing in the amount of times that happens, and instead it's turning into these smaller subsystems. So connecting to those products is key. And again, I'll bring up the softbod, that by having those connections pre-written, it's going to help deploy software fast.
It's like building a house and without buying all the pipes, without actually understanding where everything fits together. Whereas in this new world, which you're describing, seems to be you build the pipes according to how much is actually needed and what it connects with. So fascinating to see where the technology is going. Can you tell us a little bit about the current context? We've had this global pandemic, which has hit all of us. I mean,
sure.
in London at least, we can't mix households, we can't really, all the restaurants close at 10. We barely really move around today, which is a different world. What does it mean for your business? What has it really done to your business and your industry, but also your customers?
Sure. Well, so first of all, the near and dear to me is I was on my first flight last week, and there were 3 people on the whole plane. So the whole airplane, and they still ran it and it operated, but there were 3 individuals on it. So I think in the United States, it is slow to get back to the way it used to be. But I think we're all trying to figure out how to make that work and be safe while we do it. So from a Berken Solutions standpoint, the positives are the world of automation is booming. I think it's helping customers realize the importance. It's one more reason to automate. As there probably already were a variety of reasons, but here's one more reason, right? So the valuable employees that customers have, they need to be doing valuable work and valuable jobs that are difficult to handle. And our goal is to help automate those repetitive jobs that, maybe you don't have to have somebody doing that work 100% of the time. So yeah, I think it's helping people understand the importance of spending capital to put in automation to reduce headcount. From a Berken Solutions standpoint, on the kind of the negative side, I will say it's more difficult to find new customers and to network, right? Trade shows are canceled. Everything is going virtual, and that makes it a challenge. And then in addition, hiring new employees, it definitely does. But again, it comes on us to find innovative ways to handle that.
Absolutely. And when you talk about the reduction of labor for your customers, can you tell us a little bit about how much of a reduction you're making and what impact you think that will have?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. So yeah, every opportunity is unique, which is part of what I love about this industry and what we do as a business. There are times where the payback is less than a year, and it makes 100% sense to put the system in. There's times where we'll put in some conveying equipment for safety reasons, or maybe we're not reducing headcount, but we're eliminating the potential of a disastrous injury happening. And then I guess there are times where the payback is 2 or 3 or 4 years, and if the customer is in it for the long haul, it makes sense to invest in their business and put automation in for that reason. Yeah.
I use the example of a lamppost. Those once upon a time we had lampposts you had to light. And suddenly with electrification, you now had one person who can turn on 5,000 lampposts. And in fact, that reduced a lot of risk to someone who's going around lighting up lampposts. And it's so much healthier, so much safer. And that automation created other jobs. And I think what you're saying is that it really reduces the risk and the health and safety, for example, in manufacturing hub, all these people standing next to each other during a crisis and a pandemic is just simply unhealthy and unsafe, because you get each other unwell. If one person gets unwell, everyone else could be, and that destroys an entire operation. So totally understand. And I guess from your perspective and as a business, the real opportunity you're saying is that you can use this digital world to communicate what you're doing and where you're going. And I guess one final bit I think a lot of your potential customers and partners would be interested in is, what are you most excited about? There have been some challenges this year for every business in the entire global economy. So what are you excited about as a business for the next 6 months? What are you going to learn from this, and how are you going to change, and how are you going to help your customers?
Sure. Well, one thing for sure is that face-to-face meetings are important, but if it means flying across the country to meet for an hour, maybe it's a good reason to second think that and have a Zoom meeting or have a conference meeting online before we go through all that effort and spend all that money and do that. And I think it's a good check for everybody, both from a business standpoint and a personal standpoint, to reprioritize what's important, try to reduce things that do not add value, and then kind of refocus moving forward. Yeah.
And of course, we all get to spend time with family and friends, which actually can help with our businesses, in fact. So I think there's so much positivity moving forward. And I just want to say, Jeff, thank you so much, and thank you very much for the opportunity for us to learn about Berken Solutions, for your time, and we're extremely grateful. Excited for you to go back. I hear you're traveling again very shortly.
Yes.
it sounds like you're going to have a lot of flights with 2 other people, which is actually quite a luxury. Maybe not for the airlines,
Yes.
though.
Yeah. There's plenty of room to stretch out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you very much, Jeff, and have a great afternoon. Take care.
Thank you, T. Have a great day.
Bye.